All right, hey everyone, this is Ash. Welcome back to the King's Speech. So apologize. I know I've been kind of MIA the past few weeks, but there's just been a lot going on between work and home stuff, and just general, seasonal sad stuff going on as well. And I've also been kind of obsessed with video gaming the last little while. So it's kind of been, a mix of well-deserved rest and a little bit of, stressful dealing with personal things. So, yeah, it's been a lot. But I felt like I had to catch up with the Kaiju chapter because I let three pile up, which I shouldn't have gone so long without having reacted to them. But I figured I might as well get around to it before more chapters pile up and it becomes a hugely stressful mess for me to try to figure out how to get through all of them. Yeah, so with that said, hopefully I will try to do a proper channel update to let everyone know kind of what's going on, what plans are for when I'm going to start doing read throughs and stuff again. Right now, it's probably looking like it's not going to happen till November, but like I said, I'll do a proper channel update for anyone that doesn't watch like the kaiju videos and other reaction stuffs and doesn't know what's going on. Yeah, so with that said, without further ado, let's dive into Kaiju number 8, chapter 45. I am three chapters behind, but rather than doing like one big video for all three, I'm just going to do them separate. Again, just so I can have the titles and everything and make them a little bit more bite sized and consumable. Yeah, so with that said, let us dive into Kaiju number 8, chapter 45 by Naoya Matsumoto. Translation by David Evelyn and lettering by Brandon Bovia. And we see pick up with the flashback with Kikoru saying, I'll become the strongest as she's watching her mother. And she goes, and save everyone in your place, mommy. And you see how she's just caught off the little protruding limbs, the bulbous limbs of Mushroom Head with the axe as he goes, that almost got me. And you see he just starts bubbling up some little bulbous protrusions below Kikoru to kind of throw her off balance with her footing. And she goes, the ant's head? And yeah, this is bad. It's taking away any place for her to stand and you see our boy Kafka just goes rushing in, sliding with a sliding kick, and slams the ant's legs and sends it flying. Or at least sends it like keeling over as Mushroom Kaiju kind of totters a little bit. Ooh, and you see a brick. It looks like Kafka's possibly broken his leg from the force of that kick. And he calls out Kikoru! And she goes out to the other side with the axe to flank Mushroom Head. And she goes, squadron style axe technique, number 6, Daruma dropper. And she just slices him with a couple of quick slices as she just cuts him horizontally. And she goes, now! And he goes, on it. I have a big chance thanks to my teammate. I'm sealing the deal here once and for all. I really, really, really love that panel and just the way it's laid out and everything. But you see the giant bug head of the whatever the hell it was that infected him at the beginning, the mini kaiju that infected him, just kind of looming in from the background. It's just this totally black panel. Super sick looking, love it. And you have Kafka going, huh? And you see a crick as he kind of, I don't know if this is him transforming, if it's just him thinking back to when he'd gone berserk. But you see like a little bolt of black lightning. Ooh. Okay, alright, this is not actually, this is gonna have some kind of like dream sequence. For a second, I was like, oh shit. Shonen has kind of ruined me for this because I cannot take even like a fake out death seriously in any of the series anymore. But you see Kafka in his kaiju form, imagining having like struck Kikoru through the chest, pinning her to the wall, and you see the rest of the first division just kind of like laying around, bloodied and beaten. And then he kind of flashes back out of it as he goes back in his normal form and sees the blood on his hands. And he just yells out a giant scream. And again, we have like the scale shattering around him. And you have Kaiju number 8 has failed to fully transform again. And he goes, we had it wrong. Number 9 isn't doing this. This is... Of course, I mean... we'll talk about that at the end once I do the kind of chapter review stuff cover thing. But you see Mushroom Head's kind of bulging out again as he's doing his little mini explosion things as he's heading towards Kikoru. And you see Kafka just sitting there. Oh, all right. This is exciting development. I want to talk about it a little bit. But you see Kafka just sitting there as you see like the bulbous protrusion go towards him. You see a boom, prop, prop. And you see Kikoru's axe has gotten shattered into 3 pieces. You see Kafka flying back with the bullet holes all over his body from like the little mushroom explosions that has been sent his way. And he goes, "This is fear." As he goes flying and skidding. And he goes, "Fear of being absorbed by a kaiju. Fear of killing my comrades. My own fear." And you see, so that's it. And you see Kikoru in front of him, gun just pointed as she goes, gun pointed at Mushroom Kaiju, not at Kafka, going, "Don't you dare insult me like that." And you see the giant ants just kind of honing in on them. And she just starts letting off a slew of shots. She goes, "And not just me. That goes for Captain Ashiro, Vice Captain Hoshina, Reno, and all our squad mates. And above all, you yourself. How dare you? Don't insult the defense force like that." Just again, solid panel. Love it so much. And you have Kafka going, "She's right. I've been a fool. She's so strong and so cool that there's no way I could kill her." You see tears just dripping down as he goes, "I gotta believe in my team." And he just yells out this massive primal roar. Kikoru looks back and goes, "I swear, you are never on time." And she just reloads her gun. And she goes, Kafka Hibino, as he's finally transformed into Kaiju number 8. Alright. So quick thoughts on the chapter and my mixed kind of feelings on the end. So we'll kind of do what I usually do, go from the start to the end, talking about it. So I'm glad that even though, Kafka was unable to transform into Kaiju number 8, he still was trying to do his utmost best to kind of do whatever he can to provide a distraction or at least some tactical support. So I do like that, the Kafka's kind of the damsel in distress in this chapter rather than Kikoru, where she has to kind of keep continually protecting him and stand up for him rather than the other way around, which I think which is how I think it typically would be in most other series. So I really did appreciate that. Honestly, Kikoru is just my favorite. I love her going in with the axe, absolutely taking no shit as she's cutting and dicing some mushrooms. So I really love that. I'm glad we got the confirmation that they weren't going the route of number 9 was psychic blocking or doing whatever to stop Kafka from transforming. Which I think brings me to my biggest critique of this chapter. Because like I said, I love the moment where you have the giant bug thing that, Kafka is that infected Kafka in the first place and turned into the kaiju. I love that whole sequence of him thinking back to, how it overpowered him and made him turn berserk. I like the whole flashbacks to everything there, and him kind of having the daymare of potentially killing Kikoru and the rest of his squad. I love how we kind of bring in that very real fear he has of what if I lose control again? What if something happens, etc. And that's why it's a little disappointing that Kikoru kind of gives him the whole shonen speech of trust in your friends and everything. And it kind of is enough to bring him out of his funk and to help him transform. This is the part where I'm kind of conflicted because I'm on the one hand, I'm I want to wait to see how the rest of this battle and this arc plays out. Because it could very well end up being it's just a temporary buff. Kafka was able to kind of overcome his limitations for just this fight, due to a series of factors. He's able to overcome it, overpower through it. But he still hasn't gotten over, his PTSD from the berserk transformation. He's still got issues with being able to transform at will. if we have like the clarification of that after this arc is over, that would make it a little bit easier for me to kind of overlook the stuff. But I feel like, again, this is the second time in the series we've had kind of, you know, a powerful, like what should have been a powerful, like psychological trauma or roadblock to overcome that's kind of just swept to the side very, very easily, for the sake of progressing the plot and kind of brushing the conflict under the rug. And I think it is doing a little bit of disservice to the story. Like, I think it would be, as as much as I love, Kafka kind of getting through, powering through it because of Kikoro calling him out, like, telling him to do better. I feel like it isn't really a realistic portrayal of how a situation like this would go. Like, how trauma isn't just, you can't just overcome trauma so easily and so quickly like that. I guess that's maybe, again, a thing of me, expecting realism from a Shonen Jump series about, a guy that can transform into a giant monster. But again, like, given how quickly they swept, Kikoro's whole thing, Kikoru and Usao's whole thing of, like, Kaiju killed, my wife, my mother, and how I hate Kaijus. Given how quickly they kind of swept that under the rug, given the fact that Kafka kind of hid it from them, the fact that we're again getting like another psychological thing that's kind of getting brushed under the rug doesn't really sit well with me. Uh, but yeah, we'll wait to see how the rest of the stuff progresses before I kind of lay down final judgment on that. But yeah, even though I did like it, I feel like it would have made for a more compelling story. It would have made for a more compelling story if, despite all of that, Kafka still could not bring out, the kaiju transformation, no matter how hard he was trying, like how hard he was trying to perform. I think it would have done a lot more for his character, for his development, if he had to sit with that failure and think about what it means. I had to kind of go through the introspection. But like I said, story's not done, so it's kind of hard to judge it based on that now. But I figured I might as well point that out here. And I think the last big thing I wanted to point out, this is something I can't believe I actually haven't talked about or addressed on either my Twitter or in previous videos. But I was always of the belief that Kikoro was going to get her mother's kaiju suit armor thing, whatever it was, at some point. So when the axe came out, I was like, oh, they're going a different direction for it. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's fine. But now that we've seen that her axe has gotten broken in this chapter, barring that, they just kind of just like, oh no, we can piece it back together, no problem. Like, this stuff happens all the time. I'm wondering if this is going to be her, finally taking up her mother's mantle and learning to use like her armor and whatnot. So that's a potential other interesting little future tidbit that could be set up. But yeah, now that Kafka is back into kaiju form, I am looking forward to seeing him kick Mushroom Head's ass. That should be interesting to see how that plays out. As soon as I finish this recording, I will get around to recording the other two chapters and uploading them to the channel as well. Like I mentioned at the start, I will try to get a proper channel update out so that everyone can kind of have an idea of what's going on, when to expect things to come back with regards to read-throughs. As always, if you like my comment, please do like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until next time, this is Ash. Talk to you all later.